Welcome to another episode of OG55. We have a lot of news stories today. We're talking about that Villains Land / Cars Land expansion at Disney World Magic Kingdom. The permit, it did get approved. We're talking about some improvements happening around Walt Disney World. Very, very welcome stuff coming out of that. We have a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about this new level 99 situation. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today on OG55. Let's go. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. We got a full house today. We got the Italiano Slimer and Mr. Webba in the house. So before we dive into our topics today, George, the Italiano, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is, Slimer. Welcome back, sir. Looking good as always. Where can everybody find you on social media?
Thank you, gentlemen. You guys can find me on Slime Square. Find me on X at Slime Square 84, and you can find me right here on YouTube at Orange Grove 55.
There he is. And we got, last but certainly not least, the one, the only, Mr. Webba. Mr. Webba, welcome back, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at Cobweb91. You can also find me on Twitter, which is going to be at Webslinger760 and here on OG55.
There he is. All right, gentlemen, let's dive right in. So Mr. Theme Park Wizard and I did a video on this the other day. We dove into it, had a fantastic conversation. Shout out to Mr. Theme Park Wizard, a good friend of the channel. But I wanted to bring on the rest of the OG55 crew to discuss this because this is huge news coming out of Walt Disney World. Disney receives the green light. And is that a little Cars joke in there? The green light? I think it is. For the Rivers of America demolition permit. The South Florida Water Management District has granted Walt Disney World's application for the stormwater modifications related to the demolition of the Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island at the Magic Kingdom. The permit encompasses about 62 acres in the Magic Kingdom area, but still falls short of Bob Iger's backyard, but still big nonetheless, which demanded more scrutiny from the SFWMD than a more simple permit may have. To that end, this has been a multi-month saga between Disney, the CFTOD, and the SFWMD. That dates back to August. Here is the latest. I'll start with you, Slimer. What are your thoughts on this, brother? Are you surprised, not surprised? What do you think, brother?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, Disney hasn't had a problem getting permits approved since 1971. I mean, of course, they approve their own permits, but I mean, this is a big opportunity for the Magic Kingdom to expand its capacity more than it's ever been expanded before. Billions and billions of people annually come in the Magic Kingdom. No, I mean, we're looking at a big expansion project here for the most attended park in the entire world. So this is a big deal. I think that, I mean, Josh might be shooting for that 20 million number annually, which I would be shooting for if I were him. It's a lofty goal. But you know, with the Villains Land and a Cars Land coming, I am excited. Let me tell you. So I know a lot of people on social media right now are not very elated about this. Okay. And I get that sentiment. All right. When your favorite thing in the park goes away, it does kind of leave, a little hole in your heart. Right. I felt that way with Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. So I can understand the position that, this is a loss for some people. I'm not one of those people. I'm the kind of person that really enjoys new attractions and new entertainment and new rides. That's what gets me coming back to the park. I'm one of these people. I don't like to go to the park time and time again, spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year just to experience the same thing over and over and over again. Like, to me, that's kind of psychotic. So, I mean, it is. All right. I mean, do your own thing. You do you. You know, if you want to write It's a Small World for the 719th time and get a kick out of it, who am I to judge you? You know, everybody does Disney differently. But I'm excited for a change. Look, it's going to bring new attractions, new vistas, new rides, new experiences, new nighttime entertainment, and to probably the most lackluster park in Walt Disney World. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. I mean, it's Magic Kingdom's look, for somebody that really enjoys thrill rides, Magic Kingdom's a boring park.
Well, you know, Slimer, I mean, I'm a Disneylander. I'm a West Coaster, right? And I went to Disney World a year and a half ago, my very first time. The stuff that I love the most had nothing to do with Magic Kingdom. Like, I loved Animal Kingdom. It's my favorite park. I loved Epcot. I even was surprised at how much I loved Hollywood Studios. Magic Kingdom left, I felt nothing in that park.
Right.
And probably because I'm so accustomed to Disneyland, which is like just, that park has so much like charm and just attractions and everything packed into one park, e-tickets, the whole 9 yards. And when you go to Magic Kingdom, which is kind of like a sister park, it's really, really underwhelming. But I'm with you too, Simon, in terms of like, I'm one of those Disney fans. I like new stuff. And fans have been complaining for a long time. Hey, let's turbocharge. You know, let's get the ball rolling. Let's Disney. Come on, let's invest. Let's give Universal a run for their money. And then the minute they start to invest, the minute they start to turbocharge, then it's like, well, I mean, I didn't want that. I mean, it's like, come on, fandom. Like, look, you don't have to love every project. I don't love every project, you know, but at the end of the day, if you want them to invest in these parks, you have to come to the reality that, hey, you know what? You might not like the new thing. Hey, it might replace a thing that you do like, you know what I'm saying? That's okay. That's part of the Disney park kind of philosophy. What Walt said when he created Disneyland, these parks are ever evolving, ever changing. If you want a museum, go to the Getty. You know what I'm saying? What say you, George?
So I actually agree with you, because growing up, going to Walt Disney World, you know, since I was a kid, and going to Magic Kingdom and what have you, it was like the greatest thing ever. After coming out and experiencing Disneyland multiple times, you know, and then going back to Magic Kingdom, you can definitely feel that void of Disneyland's charm has that Magic Kingdom doesn't. And I'm going to be a little bit more straightforward than Slimer. I do get, you know, how people can like have an attachment to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride or It's a Small World. I'm sorry, folks. It's the rivers of a fucking America. Like, you mean to tell me that people go into the park and they're lined up from like the beginning of the park all the way down to go over to Tom Sawyer's Island?
No.
I understand because of the kinetic energy and what have you, but is anyone really even paying attention to the kinetic energy when they're in the park? The people that are complaining, that chances are they haven't been to the park in like 5 years.
well, and here's the thing, George, you bring up a good point. And what I also do want to say that a lot of these comparisons where I've seen a lot of people on social media say stuff like, well, you know, I don't think like Disneyland fans would really want their river to be gone. No, they're right. I wouldn't want our river to be gone, but it's not an apples and apples comparison.
Right.
The Rivers of America at Disneyland serves a pretty big purpose for that park with Fantasmic, the Columbia, the Mark Twain, the history directly connected to Walt Disney. That's a whole different beast than the kind of cut and copy kind of light version of that same river in the Magic Kingdom. They're not the same thing. Just like the Pirates rides aren't the same thing. And there's things at Disney World that are better at Disney World than in California. You know what I'm saying? So like, obviously, like I like the fact that we have Mission Breakout out here in California, but I don't think that would be good for Florida. Right. So it's not always a direct comparison. It doesn't work for each thing. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, and exactly. And I was just going to get to that too, Disneyland's Rivers of America is completely different with that. Like, that's true kinetic energy. Right. For me, I feel like there was already kind of like lost in translation with Magic Kingdom's Frontierland, and especially it becoming Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Even before Tiana's Bayou Adventure, you had Splash Mountain right next to Big Thunder, and across the way was Country Bear Jamboree. It never really even gave off a full frontier kind of vibe. So even with the river and Tom Sawyer Island, to me, it was just all kind of lost in translation anyway. But I also wanted to bring up too, a lot of people were saying about, prior to this even happening, Cars Land is like one of the greatest things that ever came to the Disneyland Resort. Cars Land was one of the greatest things that came to DCA. And they're absolutely right.
Yes.
It's my favorite land in all of DCA. Why would you not want to put a franchise like that in Magic Kingdom, as Slimer pointed out, the #1 theme park in all of the world, and you can then still tie in the kinetic energy with the landscaping. You can add water to that. I get so frustrated when people are so quick to judge something before they even see it.
Well, and this is
experience it.
Yes, exactly. And here's the thing too. It's not a clone. Initially, when the rumors came out, I think it was from was it Mickey Views? I think was one of the first to report on the Cars ride coming to Magic Kingdom. I'm not sure. Yeah, but his reporting was that Florida was going to get a clone of Radiator Springs Racers. Okay, I was like, no, that's not good. Disney's bringing a new Cars Land experience to Magic Kingdom. It's not a clone. This is basically like taking Cars Land and Grizzly Peak recreational area, mushing them together. That's incredible. Those are two amazing lands, and you're getting that all in one. I mean, I'm telling you, I think a lot of the people that are kind of poo-pooing this area, like, oh, we're losing our river, you have no idea what you're in for, because Cars Land and even Grizzly Peak are incredibly beautiful areas. The aesthetics for this new Cars Land area is going to be absolutely through the roof, and we don't even have real concept art for this thing, really. I mean, we haven't really seen the D23 stuff is very vague. Once we get like to Destination D and we really see like the details of what they're bringing, I think more and more people will be on board. Mr. Webba, what are your thoughts, brother?
Going with the cloning situation, when Pandora was first announced to come to DCA, everybody got so up in arms and mad about a Pandora coming over here to California, because everybody's first thought was, I don't want another clone of the same thing, right? And in my head, that never made sense, because I was thinking, why would they bring a clone of the same thing from Walt Disney World over here? People gave the answer, well, Galaxy's Edge. Yeah, I get that, but James Cameron is a different beast here, so I figured it would be something different, also because the two coasts have different sizes and you have different parameters to work within those type of constraints, right?
Correct.
With Rivers of America, so that's the whole thing on the cloning thing. Like, I never thought that there would be a same clone of an attraction from them to us, or us to them. With Rivers of America, I think it's time for it to go. Magic Kingdom needs its more unique identity. Yes, it can be a castle park, but it needs to separate itself more from Disneyland, in my opinion. And I think a big issue people have with it is like what George was saying. It was like that, that big kind of nature-y, kinetic energy thing you have there. I think a lot of people like it for the visual aesthetics, but that doesn't mean you can't have great visual aesthetics within New Cars Land. And I think what scares a lot of people is it's such a big section of the park too that's going to be closed and demolished. I think that kind of subconsciously scares a lot of people because it's such a big area that you're kind of messing with.
Right. No, absolutely. It's a risk. It is a risk. But you know what? I like Disney to take risks, because I think a lot of the stuff I think that Disney's was built on being a risk-taking company with Walt and everything. I mean, he put everything on the line to make Snow White and so I think you want to take those risks. I think the bigger risk the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. Like you want to take risks, Now, I'm not going to absolve Disney of any responsibility. This is a huge risk, and you have to deliver Disney. You can't go in there and half-ass this project. Like, if you're going to remove the Rivers of America and alter the complete vibe of this park, you're going to have to do some big things. So, I mean, and we will hold them accountable if this thing turns out like crap.
Right.
But go ahead, Slimer.
And I got a couple things about that. So number one, there's a lot of bashing about there's a lot of bashing of this idea of replacing the rivers of America, with villains and with cars. Okay, first and foremost, that's fair. Like, you can bash an idea and say, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. Nobody's saying you can't say that. But what you can't do is say this is going to be objectively worse than what we already have because you haven't experienced it yet. Now, this thing opens and it sucks. I'm going to bash it with you, man. I'm one of those people. I will sit there and I'll bash it with you. And I think we've had a lot of experiences like that where they've taken something that was perfectly fine, changed it, and it ended up being worse. All right. And everybody has, I mean, especially with X now, like there's no, there's like no hiding about it. Like everybody's pretty open about their thoughts because of like, the ability to have anonymity, to voice your opinions. That's kind of a big thing too. But be a little bit more open-minded if you want. I don't care if you aren't. And let's see what this thing is like first before we bash and say this thing's going to suck or it's going to be worse. Or, now if your whole aspect and, the whole angle that you're going with is, the preservation of the rivers of America because Roy Disney built it, get lost. I mean, nobody cares. All right. Nobody cares about, that's not how you do business, right? Like if you're a businessman, you're not clutching your pearls and keeping everything the same forever and ever and ever and ever, because you're never going to attract new customers and increase your revenue and increase your growth.
Right. And you stifle creativity when you have that mindset.
Absolutely. And then and then additionally, like Rivers of America has intrinsically bad or problematic ways. The Liberty Bell is not maintained to the same level as the Mark Twain. There is no Columbia ship. There's a lot of disadvantages to this Rivers of America that Disneyland doesn't have. All you got to do is just go to California and experience it, see for yourself. Like we're not making this up. It's not apples to apples.
Right. 100%. What say you, Webba? What say you, brother?
Oh, I was just gonna say, never mind. I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah. No, but I agree with you, Slimer. It's not apple to apple. These are different situations, and you have to take each situation differently because they're not the same.
Honestly, if it was Disneyland's Rivers of America, I would be pissed off. Yeah. Like no matter what you would put in there, because again, the stakes are even higher because then you would have to really put something in there that is like top notch, state of the art, because you're not just getting rid of the river, you're getting rid of the Mark Twain, the Columbia. You essentially would be hindering Fantasmic.
Right.
And so for that's a whole nother thing. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. That's not even compared to apples.
Yeah. Webba, what's going on?
Yeah. So I remember what I was going to say. You have to, the park and the company has to change with the times. Right. Like you can't just keep the same old stuff like forever. You always have new generations, new films coming out. New the theme park landscape and technology changes. You have to come up with new things and constantly evolve. And you can't do that if you're always just going to have the same constant theme there. Especially as to what Slimer pointed out, if it's a huge disadvantage to that part of the park anyway. Remove it, put something better in there.
Right. And I've been in the community a long time. I've said that, a long time, with back in the alot days. Okay. A crazy long time. Like the mid to late 90s. And I remember, and this is why I kind of laugh a little bit with the fan outrage on a lot of this stuff, because I've been there literally for what, 25 years now. I remember the outrage for Small World Holiday. I'm telling you guys, dial-up internet was all abuzz, okay? The outrage that they would put a bunch of Christmas lights on the facade of this historic attraction. And I remember all the fans not all the fans, but a lot of fans complaining that it's going to look like someone's tacky front lawn, okay? Look what happened. It's one of the most beautiful things that entertainment has ever done at Disneyland. Okay. Yeah. It's absolutely gorgeous. I remember all the complaining about Mission Breakout. How could you retheme the Tower Hotel, the Guardians of the Galaxy? That makes no sense. Well, it opens and now now fans would be mad if they turned it back. they love it so much. I mean, come on, you know.
Well, OG, to your point, this is why, and I'm including myself in this. This is why all of us are not Imagineers, because everybody puts their own thought into it. Like, oh, that's impossible. Oh, that's gonna look ugly. Yeah, probably in the concept in your head you're thinking about, in your image, it looks like shit, or that you can't do it. But that's why we have these Imagineers, these creatives, to actually think about this stuff and what works, what's gonna look good, how it's gonna perform. Right? They're looking at these things and they're building it on the most kind of objective basis as you can.
And Imagineers are formally trained to be open-minded as well. You know, like if you ever taken an entrepreneur class or business class, right? One of the things that you learn in your 1,000 to 2,000 level courses is never judge an idea on the outset. You know, if you're trying to brainstorm, for example, and you're working with a team where you have to solve a problem, one of the common things that you do is you just write down ideas on a piece of notebook paper or like on a sticky, you put it on the wall and you don't judge it. Like you just write it down. And sometimes it's a dumb idea, but you combine 3 stickies and boom, you got a solution to a problem that's existed for 10 years because what you're doing is you're keeping an open mind and you're looking at the possibility of synthesizing different solutions. And sometimes these non-starters, what happens is when you synthesize them, you can get inspired and hit that light bulb moment and come up with something creative or innovative that that can change the industry, right? So that's the difference between Imagineer and everybody that is judging this at the outset without even seeing the groundbreaking on it, right? So
and to your point,
open-minded, yeah. So the person that they hold out to the high standard was an open-minded guy, So
100% Slimer, and to even put more of a point on what you're saying, Webba, you were talking about how when it was announced that we were going to get some Avatar experience or some land out here in California, the first thing fans assumed was a clone.
Yeah, and
it wasn't that. So a lot of fans lack the imagination or lack the open-mindedness, like what Slimer was saying, to kind of see beyond like what's right in front of them, So we didn't get a clone. We didn't get a clone with Cars Land going to Magic Kingdom, So
a lot of people take that for like the notion of what happened with Galaxy's Edge. But the difference with that was Iger made that announcement at the exact same time that he was mentioning for Walt Disney World. Oh, we're not making 1, we're making 2. But to say that, and as I said, if the rumor was true, because we had talked about it on the channel for quite some time, where hypothetically, if it was a clone of Radiator Springs Racers, how like cheap in a way that would be, that you would take an almost 15-year, but by the time it would be done, 20-year attraction, and then just purposely put that in the area that they're saying that this is going to be the biggest expansion in Magic Kingdom history, which I do have to make that clear too. And I know a lot of people say it's not an expansion, it's a replacement. I can understand what they're saying, but at the same time, it is an expansion. If you can't if there is open area that you have no access to, and you can't walk to it or you can't visualize it, because the Rivers of America is big. It's not just crossing the river and then boom, there's Tom Sawyer Island. There's a lot of area that encompass that river that guests never even stepped foot on. I'm sorry, to me, that's still taking it as an expansion because they are adding pathways where guests can walk to.
Well, and George, I brought that up on a video like months back, and I said, guests cannot walk on water. That water is eventually going to be a footway to whether it's restrooms, in a queue, restaurants, and all that good stuff, right? So you're going to have so much more available foot space to actually that's solid to work with. Right. So to your point, that as well, but yeah, I think that there's another good example with this OG, with like the whole imagination thing, and that is Indiana Jones, right? Coming to the tropical Americas. Oh, what does Indiana Jones have anything to do with animals? Well, fuckface, they'll tell you they're going to have a mythical animal in part of the story in the ride.
Right.
So
Well,
come on.
Well, you're right, and it's weird to me too, because if you really look, and I get it, Disney's Animal Kingdom, people assume, well, where's the animals, right? But here's the thing: look at Everest. Like, where's the big animal connection there? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
There
right.
not And Animal Kingdom isn't just about the animals. I mean, it is a big part of it, obviously. It's also about various cultures, though. You know, I mean, and different parts of the world, right? It celebrates
the River Rapids was initially made for. It was to serve a purpose as to, you know, when people are burning down the rainforests.
Mhm.
You know, that there was a story actually behind Cali River Rapids that had nothing to do with tech. I mean, it does have to do with animals, like with their living, you know, habitats and conservations and stuff, but it never really had to do with the animal. It was just the message of what could possibly happen to land and nature if it is abused.
Exactly. This park is really kind of like the relationship between people and animals, conservation. So it's much bigger than just like, oh, animals. I mean, yes, animals, but it's bigger than that. And in Indiana Jones, to your point, Webba, I mean, it's themed to I think a Mayan temple.
Yeah.
So it fits into the culture, which is very consistent with the rest of the park. I mean, I don't see any difference between that and what we see over there in like Asia with Expedition Everest. So yeah, 100%.
And I've been saying that on the show for years. I mean, since I first got on, I said, you know, they bring Indiana Jones over here. That's going to fit seamlessly into Animal Kingdom, especially if they go with the Mayan approach. And no shit, obviously they did, because it's obvious. You know, the one thing that Animal Kingdom was missing was yeah, you get that one for free, Disney. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that park was missing was South America. Now we're going to get South America, and I'm elated. I think that's just going to be a fantastic addition to the Animal Kingdom, and it's just going to bring a lot of that energy. And you know, the people that don't connect like the Yeti to Animal Kingdom, they lack imagination. Like you have to be in an imaginative mindset in order to make these kinds of connections. Otherwise, you're just closed off. And if you're just closed off mentally, you're never going to see them.
But these are also the same people that were complaining, why didn't Animal Kingdom get Beastly Kingdom? Well, what the hell do you think a guardian in the Mayan temple and a Yeti is? It would be part of Beastly Kingdom. It's, you know, it's like, but with Tropical Americas, and this is like the nerd that I am, not only am I excited for the Encanto attraction and Indiana Jones, but I'm just excited just for the land itself. I'm so glad that they took an approach where the land connects with the rest of the park, where it is actually where you're walking through a section of South America. So I'm so glad that they took that approach.
Oh, me too.
Well, actually, real quick, sorry, George. I want to go back to the fans because they kind of piss me off sometimes. With the whole imagination thing, right? It's like, oh, these fans, every single time there's a small announcement or adjustment or whatever, they get up in arms about every single thing. And it's like, guys, use your fucking head for once. Like, I don't understand. Like, and it pisses me off because it's pretty much kind of like it's pretty much like kind of calling in a roundabout way the Imagineers kind of shit, because they're pretty much saying, oh, they don't know what they're doing. You know, like how dare they touch my beloved whatever, you know, they're fucking things up. And it's like, guys, these Imagineers are trained and they're very much professionals. They're also fans and humans like you and I. You know, like, where is the logic in this in their head? I don't understand this. And it's just frustrating because I'm like, guys, stop shitting on them. Yes, you can have criticisms. Absolutely. But when it's constant complaint about every single thing that comes out, like, dude, if I was an Imagineer, bro, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, fuck you guys. Like,
I'm not saying that it would actually do anything, but it just for the sake of your statement, Ebba, if that discourages an Imagineer to want to create something because of the backlash, then they'd be up in arms saying, well, they're not doing nothing to improve the parks. Why aren't they doing stuff? Why aren't they expanding? Why aren't they adding? It's like, no matter which way you slice the cake, it's like you can't get the whole piece.
Yeah, exactly. And we love cake here at the channel for sure. We're big cake people here. We're big cake people. No, but the thing is, here's the thing. Yeah, you're right, George. You fall but you fall on one side of the trap or the other. if you don't invest, then the fans will say, well, what's Disney doing? Like, do something, like, respond to Universal. Then they do respond, or they invest and they turbocharge. And now we're just going to hate every project because, well, I don't want that and not that IP, and I don't want it there, and I don't want that to go away. It's like when you invest a lot of money into your parks, there is a high likelihood that you might not like one of the elements or multiple elements, or it might replace something. When they spent $1 billion to reimagine DCA, if you were a big Maliboomer fan, sad day for you. You know what I'm saying? If you were a big Sunglass Hut fan, sad day for you. But progress moves on, right? I mean, you have to lose something to gain something sometimes. It's just the way reality works. And a lot of fans don't understand that,
Well, right. And the reason why it makes me mad is because I feel like a lot of these fans are just really entitled. And it's just annoying because it's like this entitlement attitude that they bring. And it's like, guys, this is a multi-million billion dollar like industry of this theme park, like this isn't your house. Okay.
Well, and they act like they don't know what they're doing, as you just said. Like it's a multi-billion dollar industry that's over 100 years old. I think they're doing pretty well. I think they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Wait, George, are you sure? Because I could have sworn I've seen Bob Iger with laser eyes.
Laser eyes, yeah. We love the Bob Iger laser eyes. He actually comments on the channel sometimes with his laser eyes. We've seen. I think he was a member. He was a member for a while. but yeah, no, absolutely. And look, that doesn't mean we're not going to criticize. Like if there is stuff that Disney builds that it is not up to par, like the Communicore Hall thing at Epcot is like a discredit.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they do drop the ball. Yeah. But a lot of times the fans they go overboard, and a lot of times it's even like preemptive hate. Like it's not even fucking built yet, and we already hate it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, the thing is when your criticism is always on, you lose credibility. At least in the real world. I feel like this heightened level of criticism, it never existed to this level before YouTube. Like once the algorithm chasing became a thing, everything's like, oh well, shit. Criticizing shit and making fun of it. Obviously, that's what everybody likes. So I'm going to continue doing that because that's the algorithm that everybody prefers. But before that, or at least in the real world, nobody likes a hater. You know what I mean? Like,
Slimer, to your point though, that's what happens too when you have a lot of these people. And again, you can enjoy the parks as you want, right? It's your life. You enjoy how you see fit. However,
hate them for all I care.
Yeah. I mean, but we have people who constantly go all the time, and then they're bored and have nothing else to do. Now you're nitpicking at like, oh, there's a little crack over here, or there's a little paint chip over there. Now you're just like nitpicking at stuff all the time, and like.
Yeah. And I have a couple points on this. Number one, you're absolutely correct, Slimer. No one likes a hater, but I do like one hater.
I'm the biggest hater. I hate the
way my boy Kendrick. I always love my boy Kendrick, but he's the only hater. He's the only hater that I like. But no. But in all seriousness, though, you're right. Though, Ebba, that's actually what you're talking about, Ebba. Like that whole thing where people go and they're like complaining about like the paint chipped and the light bulbs. That's usually stems from, in my opinion, people that go maybe too much, get bored and jaded, and then they start to get, because you're bored. Like you're not going to find a family from Japan, right, or from Australia who's on their once in a lifetime visit, scanning the light bulbs and like, oh, there's a chip, that has a nick in it, Yeah, exactly. It's always the locals or always the people that are going like, a lot that do that. Now, not every local does that. I don't do that. I'm saying, George, I don't think he does that, but
no, I don't. And that was just going to be my point, that even if you do go a lot and that's your main priority by going into the park, forgive me, but I have to say you need to get yourself laid. Like,
there you go. Yeah, that would be bigger issues to address for sure. But I will say this. Now we're gonna pivot. To our next topic, which is actually really, really good news. Okay, there is a lot of little things happening with the Disney parks out here in California and in Walt Disney World, where Disney is fixing things that were broken for the longest time. And now they're fixing them. So a couple examples out here in California, the Rise of the Resistance cannons, those are fixed. We're back in business, baby. We got those fixed. The Tower of Terror, little drippy effect in the queue, I think it is, in Florida. Fixed, Now, Slimer, I think you have a more exhaustive list as to what exactly has been showing up fixed. If you want to go ahead and elaborate on that, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, sure. So the RCA dog in as you're exiting Space Mountain, he's animated again. What else? And it's not a shark, but it's some kind of a fish in the Finding Nemo ride. He comes in and out of the sunken ship again. And it seems like they just hit a switch. They just turned all these things on just in time for what? Epic Universe, right? So they're creating a lot of excitement by doing a lot of housekeeping now. And this really didn't start until, I would say, halfway through the month of February. So they're definitely, they're cleaning the house. They're getting ready for all the guests. Epic Universe is supposed to bring, they're estimating about 8 million new guests to the Orlando area, which means that, all the wonderful statisticians and people that do this for a job at Walt Disney World are expecting an influx of guests into the Disney parks as well. Weird. But they're doing a lot of little upgrades. And I think that Michael wasn't too happy about that. But Michael.
Oh yeah, we got to get into Michael's rant, Webba's rant. Now
Michael.
Yeah, he had a rant pre-show that was amazing. But like real quick, I just want to say that this is really good news. But okay, here's the thing. I'm excited because and even our Belle, Phi Belle on Twitter and Blue Sky, she's amazing. She's a really sweet lady. But she was talking about there's a doll, I guess, in Small World that hasn't been there in the Florida version for a really long time. It's there now. So moves are being made, right? But here's the thing. I welcome these changes. Okay. I think we should applaud Disney. I think even Dave from Fresh Baked did a video on this recently. He was saying the same thing. Like, I get it. It was years before they fixed some of this stuff, but you know what? I'm not gonna dismiss it. It's better late than never, like the old saying says, right? Now, here's the thing. With that said, I agree with you, Slimer. I do think that there is a little bit of an Epic Universe thing here going on, right? They're trying to build a little bit of that positive buzz. They're kind of giving the diehard fans that red meat. You know what I'm saying? So that's for sure happening. Also, I do think it is Josh D'Amaro's sort of angling for the CEO position. He needs every good headline he can muster up, because that CEO succession board is keeping an eye on all these candidates, and he is one of them for sure. Yeah. So he can't afford to have a bunch of outrage on social media against him from the fans. That's part of the equation. This is also why we got an amazing D23 in August, and that panel was packed. The announcements were like one after the next, So, I was too busy checking out D23, girl, but George told me all about it after the. But in all seriousness, we got a lot of stuff at D23, and it's not a coincidence that it's also when he wants to become the next CEO. So, look, I know that's a little bit of a cynical take probably, but it is reality, I think. He's obviously vying for the job, and he's trying to get in there and look as good as he can. But go ahead.
It's not cynical when that's what's actually happening. Like Webba pointed out, they're being completely reactive as opposed to being proactive. Now, Villains Land has been something in the shoots, for 20 years. But the fact that they announced it at D23 last year, as opposed to any other point in time, since this thing has been a rumor, goes to show you that this is objectively a reaction to Epic Universe. I'm not mad about it. I'm happy about it. Like I said, when we first started talking about the expansion project, good. I want change of the Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom to me is a doll park. Okay. But anyway, Michael, what do you got, man?
Wait, really quick, Mike. I was going to give my 2 cents because I know with yours, it's going to. So I just have to just say, I do agree with you guys. I feel that not even just the last D23, but the one prior in 2022, coming back off of COVID and shutdowns and the pandemic and whatever, that they kind of use that as like a focus group to kind of see and rebuild see how people would react to a Villains Land hypothetically if they were to do it. Because as Bob Iger had mentioned in one of the quarterly earnings, he knew about what was going on for Epic Universe for quite some time. He knew what was all involved with it. So they were kind of setting those pieces together. And then once 2020 hit, everything shut down. They had to rebuild their way. And then once they made the announcement, so to speak, to see how people would react in 2022, then it was, okay, they really want this. You know, they still want this. It's still relevant. Universal's doing Dark Universe. We got to do a villains. So yeah, so just to kind of cap it off, because I don't think even people like in the company knew how of a beating they were going to get from fans from D23 2022. I mean, we tongue lashed it, you know.
Well, yeah, we did. And Disney has to really deliver on this Villains Land, because Universal's delivering on their Dark Universe. Dark Universe looks badass, dude. Badass. I mean, and they're hitting all the right marks. Exactly what they should be doing is what they're doing with that land. So Disney really has to get their head in the game. You know what I'm saying? And George is going to sing, right, from High School Musical probably right now. No, but they have to get their head in the game and really deliver on this land. You want it creepy. You do want it slightly scary. You don't want it too gory, obviously, or nothing like that. But you do want it scary. Now, Mr. Webba, you do have some thoughts.
All right, Ed.
Well, see now, because it's like, oh man, like I'm the guy who's like complaining and everything. So I just want to say that
but go for it, because you a lot of the points you were making, bro, like honestly, to your credit, they weren't wrong necessarily. So like, you know,
and you already stuck up for Disney with the last segment, so you might as well should just beat their ass now.
Okay, so I want to give I want to give credit, right? Like it's awesome that all these things are fixed, right? Finally, it's about time you got them fixed. Okie dokie, right? But like Slimer said, it's like you just turn on a switch and like it was that easy. I'm sure it wasn't that easy. I'm sure like there was a lot of stuff that had to go into budget and whatever else. But it's very coincidental and like convenient that it's happened around this time when Epic Universe is about to open, right?
It's all about optics.
It's optics. And this is Mr. Webba's problem with that, right? Is this is not just for Disney, but just for anybody. Just do your job. Like, I don't understand why it's so hard to like, oh, we'll leave these things broken. They don't really matter. But yeah, we're a company that prides ourselves on guest experience and high quality. But we're gonna leave this broken. It's okay. Oh, Epic Universe is about to open. What do? We go fix it. And I want that CEO spot, so I'm gonna fix it. I get it. Politics is part of the game, dude. But you know what? It pisses me off because it's like that shouldn't take into account how you operate your parks. You are the fucking chairman of the parks, Josh. Like, take care of the stuff that's in your parks and have it fixed, and so you provide a good guest experience. I don't know why Disney isn't doing that until now. They're ready to have everything fixed. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Again, I get it. It's politics. It's optics, like what Slimer said. But as someone who's just like, just do the job, get the job done as you're supposed to be doing, I don't understand why that's such a hard concept to do.
No, I would agree with you on that. And like I said, at the beginning of this particular conversation, I was saying like, I like the outcome. I like that they're fixing it, but I also have issues with what you're saying, Ebba. Like the motives behind it aren't like, they're not just doing you a solid, fandom. Like, yeah, I mean, you know, there is motives here. You know what I'm saying? Hey, look, the outcome is great anyway. It doesn't really matter. You know,
it shouldn't have to have a purpose to fix something. It should just be if something needs to be
broken, fix it. Yeah, that's my whole thing. And I get it with the Star Wars canons. I heard there was a lot of issues that they had to fix, right? But that's a long time. I mean, for when the park opened, like when me and my wife went on it, it was like one time and they were working, and then after that, they've been broken forever. Right.
2 years.
Well, that's basically what it was like for the Yeti. I mean, Expedition Everest opened in 2006. The Yeti worked all the way up until like 2007 ish. And then I think like almost like at the end of 2007 to 2008. That was it. Technically, the Yeti, well, let me rephrase that. The Yeti still works. What happens is when the Yeti is functioning, it's cracking the foundation that he is standing on because he's on an individual platform that's not connected into the mountain, that's not connected to the track, if that makes sense. So the track, the mountain, and the platform that the Yeti are on are all 3 individual structures. They all intertwine with one another, but not one of them touch. So every time that the Yeti moves, it's cracking that foundation. So really, the Yeti does work. I mean, I don't know about now. You turn him on after over a decade, he probably got some really bad arthritis. But
right. Well, but George, here's the thing: is that my job expects me to do my job, right?
Mhm.
I expect Disney and any other company to do theirs. If something's broken, fix it. If something's dirty, clean it. Right? If something's not stocked, stock it. Right? These are just kind of just things you should just be doing, not out of any like weird like motives behind these decisions. These should just be basic things you do and keep your park upkept and running. And now again, like that's my kind of rant on if that's what's going on with that, right? Again, I like what OG said. I do give credit for them fixing that. That is perfectly great and fantastic. However, if companies are having motives to do the basic stuff, whether it's Disney, Universal, or any other company out there in the world, sorry, it pisses me off. Like, I don't like this political crap that these companies do. It's BS. It happens. I acknowledge that. But to me, it's still BS, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I love a Webba rant. It should have started with this, though.
Monster on the beat.
There you go, Slimer.
Now, if I may, does this mean that we're the person in the park that's pointing at things and saying, "Hey, this needs to be fixed," and this needs to be fixed? Slightly, but the context is totally different here, right? Like we're not talking about, this needs to be dusted. The light bulb up here needs to be changed.
No.
When animatronics start coming back to life. And rides that, so for Rides of the Resistance in Disneyland, for example, apparently that wasn't even a mechanical thing. Apparently they had to reprogram it. Like the safety thing, there was a safety protocol that was not allowing the cannons to go back and forth. And it was
I was hearing like it was like a sensor thing, Slimer. Is that true? I heard
it was a sensor. Like, so a sensor was being triggered, and once the sensor's triggered, the cannons turn off, so that way there's no chance that it collides with.
You're telling me I used to be married to one for 10 years.
Boom! I love how you find an opportunity to tell a marriage joke in a Star Wars ride, right? So, but yeah,
I think almost every video, to be fair.
The Yeti, the dragon, Death Star.
Death Star.
Hey, absolutely the Death Star. Yeah. So I already lost my train of thought with this one here.
Sorry, bro.
You guys. But
it's the Star Wars canon. It's about the programming, the safety.
Yeah.
Yeah. So optics, right? So the optics for me, and I think for the guys also in this chat is like, if you're going to start doing the things that make your park peak, right? Like peak level park experience. Now that Epic Universe is opening, you're like you said, you're doing them for the wrong reasons, right? Now you're doing them as a reaction to the influx of guests that Epic Universe is going to bring to the Magic Kingdom. Well, like, why aren't you just doing that anyways? Like, how come we don't care about making sure that guests have the maximal experience,
right?
Exactly. Even if it's that little RCA dog moving at the end of Space Mountain, obviously it means something to you because you're fixing it. So you know that it means something to the guests, right? And look, yeah, are we being hypercritical about it? Maybe. I think we're just having a conversation about it. But we also give Disney props where props are deserved, like that pop-up Valentine's Day thing that they did over the weekend. Great idea. Do more stuff like that. The Dapper Dans wore Valentine's Day outfits for Valentine's Day weekend. Great idea. Do stuff like that. So we're going to give credit to Disney where credit is due, and we're going to call them out for the bullshit whenever they're being, when they're involved in fuckery.
Yeah, exactly. Fuckery is exactly a great word for that. Exactly. And here's the other thing too. It's kind of like in a relationship, right? Like you have a husband and a wife or something, right? And then you have like the wife is like bitching to the guy, like, why can't you ever do the dishes, right? And then finally she like threatens to like leave the guy, right? Mm-hmm. And then now he's doing the dishes. Like that's what it reminds me. like he could have done it this whole time, but now that she's threatening to leave, now it's going to be.
Okay, bro, no, instead of like talking about my past, let's get back onto the.
George doesn't do dishes. He doesn't do dishes.
So OG, so it's just my rant is coming from a place of just it's like the premise behind it, right? Like I'm glad it's fixed. That's also I want guests to be able to have the most immersive, great experience that Disney can provide, right? So kudos to Disney for fixing them. However, I do highly question the reason for them doing so.
Of course. I think we're all on the same page. All of us are on the same page with that. 100%. 150%. All right, guys. We got more topics. This is from our friend of the channel, Mr. Scott Gustin, with a beautiful photo of Cosmic Rewind, my favorite attraction over there at Walt Disney World. Starting on February 25th, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind and Tiana's Bayou Adventure at Walt Disney World will no longer use virtual queue, and a traditional standby queue will be offered. This is crazy to me that this was even, I mean, not so much for Tiana's, because Tiana's is still fairly new, I guess. But
why this took so long, it still baffles me,
bro. Like it was virtual queue when we were there, dude. Like back in like July of 2023.
Yeah, literally.
I mean, this is nuts.
Since it opened, it was like nothing but.
I forgot who posted it on X, but it's been over 1,000 fucking days.
Wow.
Yeah, over 1,000 days, man. It's like they forgot it was in virtual queue. They just totally forgot.
So I have a question for you guys. Why do you guys think that Disney has? I know they've been doing this virtual queue thing for a while because they're trying to manage the crowds, right? But why do you think for this it took so long? I get it; it's very popular, but why do you think they keep going with these virtual queue things? Like nobody, or at least I don't like them. I think they're dumb. Just get rid of them. Let people line up for 5 hours if they want to. But I don't understand what their mindset is with this virtual queue stuff. Especially with a long virtual queue like this that you've had for over like 1,000 days.
I think a lot of it is monetary, because if you get them out of the queue, you get them into the stores, you get them buying food. So, and especially with a popular ride like this, it's a lot of people, you know? So I think that's an element to it, but maybe not the whole thing. But
it also for individual lightning lane. For purchase, because a lot of people that if they don't get the virtual queue, that would be their only way to experience the ride. So when they're like, they don't get the queue, it's like, oh, well, fuck it. Like, I don't care if I'm spending $20 per person for a ride. We really want to do this. We came all this way. So if you have a family of 4, just one family of 4, that's $80
wow,
just to ride Cosmic Rewind for the individual lightning lane.
So George, so with that being said, right, I'm glad you brought that up, because now think of that family, right? And then think of another family from like Minnesota or something, and they come over to Walt Disney World, and when they want to get in here, well, let's say they don't have like the budget to get, a lightning lane. So they want to get a virtual queue. And this is their one day to get on the ride.
Well, there's people that never even knew that it was even virtual queue. Like there's people that come and they just automatically think, oh, we can just get in line no matter what. So they don't even attempt to even try to get a virtual queue. They don't even know what a virtual queue is.
And see,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Slime. I was gonna say, and see, to me, that is like bad guest experience. I'm sorry, it is like these people like don't know about your virtual queue service. And then even if they do, you have like 1 in a million chance to even get it. If you're there that one day and you're from like 5 states away, oh well.
Which actually, really quick, I just have to tell a really quick story. Abby and I were actually in Disneyland the other night, and there was a family, might have been from Japan or what have you, but like Asian or Asia area, but it had to be their first time because they were taking pictures of everything, and they actually they were in front of us. We were going on Pirates, and she had pointed over to the Mark Twain and asked us. The language barrier was kind of broken, but she was asking if the Mark Twain was an upcharge. Is that an upcharge or is that included with the ticket? And we were saying no, you can go on it and everything. So it was really cool to actually help someone out. The fact that they were a greenhorn, so to speak, in these parks, but that was something simple. That was just, yeah, that actually is free. That is included
Mhm.
with the park ticket. If it was something that needed to be an upcharge or needed a extra to
Step.
do, so to speak, then they would have never known.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So interesting stuff. I mean, it's great news, but again, it does this kind of fall into that category of like a little bit of fandom ass kissing, you
It kind of
know?
seems like everything's like kind of coming together at the same time, and it doesn't really seem like a coincidence.
No,
I think the reason they did this was out of necessity purely. So if the Magic Kingdom expansion starts,
Right.
if the construction starts next month, okay, then like almost half of the Magic Kingdom is going to be closed off.
that's true.
So where are these people going to go? They're going to have to go into these queues, and so they can't afford to run virtual queue at Tiana's Bayou Adventure anymore. And if people are going to be doing the park hopper, or if they're going to be there for a week, obviously they're going to be going Epcot as well. And so they have to open up these rides so that way people have somewhere to go. So I think that they took down the virtual queue for these rides out of necessity, purely for the fact that a lot of construction is going to start this month or next month at the Magic Kingdom, and then the construction at Animal Kingdom is going to start shortly thereafter, because that's going to start pretty soon too, because that's going to open actually before Cars and Villains. And so the only reason that I think they're doing it is because they have no other option, because the monetary advantages obviously are there. But, Webba had said something and it brought up a really good point. And I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. Let's say that family, or let's say that, or George actually said this, let's say thousands of families don't get an opportunity to ride Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Okay. And think about how much that impacts your opinion of the park if you don't get to ride fucking Cosmic Rewind.
Yeah.
Do you think that Disney is making a big mistake by prioritizing short-term gains over long-term, prioritizing short-term gains, which causes long-term losses? In other words, like if if the school, the school from Brazil, right? The school field trip from Brazil, you always see them at Walt Disney World. I mean, so many Brazilians come in the summertime. They don't ride Cosmic Rewind because they didn't know it was a virtual queue. And I mean, like, what does that do to your return rate for the Walt Disney World park? I mean, and what's crazy is, here's what's crazy. The return rate right now is actually really low compared to years past. And it's not a coincidence, because virtual queue is a relatively new concept.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it is true. I think it is. They're kind of shooting themselves in the foot with that, because it's not just the fact of coming back, but it's also the price tag you have to pay to come back.
Mhm.
So it's like a lot of times people have a one and done, and that's it.
Right.
I mean, we're all lucky enough that we live in a state, or we have an opportunity to either go to Disneyland or Walt Disney World or what have you. But a lot of people don't have that that option. They just have that once in a blue moon. You know what? We could spend $8,000 to $10,000 on this trip, but once it's done, I mean, we're probably not going to have. They'll be able to do like other things, but for the price of how much a Disney vacation is, they may not be able to do it for another 5, 6, maybe even 10 years. And yeah, I mean, even for me, I mean, that would be a bummer for me if I couldn't get on Cosmic Rewind. I mean,
Right.
it's my favorite ride in all of Walt Disney World.
Right.
So for the people to not even have the opportunity to even experience, to know what it is, I mean, yeah, the turnaround rate, it'd be like, well, what's the point of us even thinking of coming back, because we'd have to spend another 10 grand just to experience this one ride. Are we going to really do that? Probably not.
Right. And Slimer, to your point, right, is you were saying that you think they pretty much have to let it open, right? Like let it off it. And this has kind of been my problem. Like, oh God, I hate that I sound like I keep complaining about Disney. Sorry, man. Sorry. But because I do love the company, but there's a lot of stuff they do that frustrates me. And this goes back to not being proactive and being reactive. There's been a lot of situations in the past, I feel, that they've been doing out of stuff being forced out of their hand. For example, everybody in Fantasmic wanted Peter Pan back. Well, they didn't do it until a dragon caught on fire, and then now we get Peter Pan back, right? So, you know, I mean, like,
Please continue.
You know, so we have situations like those that are happening, and in a case like this, to Slime, your point, oh well, you know, now we have to do this because of this is happening, right? And so to your point, they're thinking, in my opinion, short-term gain, but it's going to be a loss in the long term.
Right.
And it's very frustrating to see them operating in that manner of not being proactive and instead of reacting to whatever is kind of happening, instead of thinking further out. And you know what I mean? It's just, I don't understand why they're doing that.
It does make it think. It really does. Because all the points that you guys made thus far, it was Slimer, you had mentioned about, you know, because of the construction at Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom. Had the construction not been going on, would Cosmic Rewind and Tiana's still be in virtual queue? Probably.
That's my point, George.
Absolutely.
That's my point right there, dude.
You know, Ebba, what you said, if Murphy didn't burn down to a crisp, would we have gotten Peter Pan back? Probably not. We'd still have Pirates of the Caribbean with Elizabeth Swann being so fucking obnoxious. Remind you of something?
Dad.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. You're right. Simon, it's a great point, though. You're right. I think it's out of necessity. I think that you hit the nail on the head is why they're doing it.
Yeah, and I think with the virtual queue, they're thinking quarter to quarter with that. But as you can see, their attendance is flattening out, right? If a family doesn't get to experience Guardians of the Galaxy, that might be the difference, and probably is the difference between, man, that was freaking awesome, we got to do this again next year, and that was all right. We may or may not come back, you know, in the next couple of years.
Do you?
And if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong in that.
Do you guys even think, like, even moving forward now, like with Monsters Inc., with Tropical Americas, Villains Cars, do you think any of those new attractions where they may start out as virtual queue, but do you think they'll lag out as long that it did with like Cosmic Rewind? Because again, if you take Villains in particular, you're now looking at it through a mirror against Dark Universe. So if Epic Universe opens where Dark Universe, you can just go right in line. Yeah, it could be a 3-hour wait, but that's your prerogative if you want to wait 3 hours. Or to Villains Land at Magic Kingdom, that if you can only get on those attractions through a virtual queue, and if you don't get it, you don't get to experience it. I mean, you're kind of going head to head. Do you think that Disney might cut that timeline?
No, I don't think so. Matter of fact, I think it's going to be exacerbated with specific rides. I think Indiana Jones is going to be one of them with the, you know, in combination with Encanto. And then once Villains Land opens, like, forget it. I think Villains Land is going to have virtual queues for at least 3 years.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Would not surprise me. Yeah. Interesting stuff, you guys. Well, we got more news. This was, and I do want to actually bring Lucas Kim on the channel one day soon and talk about this because he's a big gamer, friend of the channel, Lucas Kim. Shout out to him. But Scott Gustin here says level 99 confirms it will bring its interactive social entertainment experience and challenge rooms to Disney Springs West Side at Walt Disney. Hold on. We got, you know, when Gustin says West Side,
I ain't got nothing to say but West Side.
There we go. Just a perfect opportunity. It says here, level 99 says the venue, which will be located in the space previously occupied by the NBA Experience, will be 45,000 square feet and can host 1,000 players at a time. That's crazy. This will be level 99. Now, this is a franchise, right? They have other locations. This will be level 99's largest venue and its first location in Florida. The venue will have over 60 challenge rooms and duels, and it will also feature a 2-story bar. Dang, dude, that's wild. So here's a little video. I can't play the sound, but I mean, it's kind of wild. I mean, this looks pretty dope. It kind of reminds me almost like a some of the stuff. Oh, dude, that looks sick, dude. The bar.
That was beautiful.
Almost like like kind of like going off of like the play pavilion that they were going to have at Epcot that never happened. So it's almost like they took that with a mixture of like the Disney Quest and kind of having like adding a bar to it. That's even more genius. Like,
This is going to be a huge hit for. I mean, this is going to be huge, absolutely huge. And I love the physicality of it, where it's like you saw in the beginning with the axes going this way, and you run through it or whatever. It reminds me of like a modern day like Legends of the Hidden Temple. Remember that show from Nickelodeon? Slimerfy does. He's my generation.
Of course, yeah.
You know, but like that's pretty cool, man. This is fun. A little bit of Interventions vibe in there too.
Right. Big time. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, interesting. And this is great. This is going to be a huge hit in Disney Springs. Disney Springs is phenomenal, by the way. I think I don't know. I like it way more than our downtown Disney. I like what they're doing with downtown Disney right now. I love that mid-century thing. I think that's very appropriate for Disneyland Resort. I don't know. I think there's just so much more to do in Disney Springs. It's a much more well-rounded experience. What was that thing that we went on, George? That like one of the first things we did when we went to Florida was that aqua boat. Was it the boathouse?
Oh yeah, the boathouse, the aqua cars. Yeah,
dude, that's amazing. That was amazing. I mean, and that was an attraction basically in and of itself. And we were just at basically the Disney Mall, and it had that. I mean, it was pretty cool. But George, what are your thoughts on this? Level 99.
I'm not a huge gamer anymore. I mean, I used to, but I mean, what it used to be, I mean, I was bummed that they got rid of Disney Quest, and I was even more bummed that they turned it into an NBA experience. But I mean, third time's a charm. I think honestly of what it looks like right now, I actually wouldn't mind experiencing that. You know, that would be something to like add on another day for a Walt Disney World trip, just to spend the day at Disney Springs and say, hey, let's go check this out. It looks quite interesting. I think honestly, this is probably going to be a winner for Disney.
Yep, absolutely. Mr. Webba, what are your thoughts, brother?
As someone who plays games myself, I actually like the look of this. I actually haven't heard about this before. But seeing the video here, what I really like is that it's big enough for a lot of activities. Because here's the thing, right? When Disneyland had like that arcade back in like the 80s, early 90s or so, that wasn't really a thing for me, because I was like, why would I play games here when I have games at home I could play? So I don't want to play video games at a theme park. However, this is Disney Springs, so it's outside of the theme park, but still on Disney property. And I like that a lot of these are like they're kinetic, physical game activities you can do. Yeah. So in that aspect, you're like more immersed in it, and I like that. And it looks like there's a lot of activities. Again, you have that bar, you know, if that 2-story bar, if you want to go and have fun up there. But yeah, I mean, this is really cool. You know, when this opens, I would love to see it, you know, one day. Yeah, no, I think this is going to make Disney a lot of money for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And Craig Taylor here with the facts. I just know a beer here will cost $18. Absolutely, Craig.
Of course.
Come on now, absolutely. But what say you, Slime? Are you excited for this, brother?
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. Where I think this is going to do well is with the locals. I can see this being very popular with the local demographic, because if you're on a theme park vacation, the last thing you're going to want to do is play 60 interactive games, or even if you're going to play a couple of them, it's a detour away from the theme parks. But if you're locally, then this is going to be a very desired place to go on dates, to go with your friends. People need help socializing with social media right now. Social media. People need help socializing. So I think this is going to facilitate a lot of interaction that people probably are hungry for but are not getting. I'll tell you who probably won't end up going is all the people that complain about Innovations East and West being gone.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to see them there. It takes too much energy. Right. And these are low effort people that complain all the time. But yeah, it looks cool. I think that moving this to outside of the parks is from a business perspective is a brilliant idea. Yeah. Innovations and same thing with like Interventions, right? Like that should have been built outside of the Disney parks. But again, you know, when Epcot was built, there was nothing outside of the parks other than the resorts. So now that we have it, you know, we can put something like that there. And from a financial business perspective, this is a really good move. I'm excited. I'm definitely going to go. But being that I live several hours away from Orlando, I don't know if this is something that I'm going to do every time I go down, but I'll do it once, check it out. But yeah, I think this is really cool. It makes Disney Springs feel like less of a shopping mall really into shopping malls because I feel like that's like uber consumerism. So yeah, it just adds to the list of things to do, which is always good.
Yeah, and that's what I think that Disney Springs does a lot better than downtown Disney. Like, we don't really have entertainment in downtown Disney. We have a lot of bars, we have a lot of
You have to
bars.
remember now, OG, they have a 75-acre plot of land that's currently a parking lot right now, but that's going to be a perfect outdoor mall,
Oh, I agree. Oh, 100%. Toy Story will be a 75-acre, beautiful, sprawling shopping center. Right? Absolutely. That's absolutely what it will be,
Yeah.
Now, we are being sarcastic. It will definitely be a theme park, but yeah, actually we were in that Toy Story lot recently, you, me, and your fiance Abby. And it's just amazing to me how huge that is. Actually, we ran into a good friend of the channel, Jeff Gordon, in there too. Shout out to Jeff. We love Jeff. But yeah, man, I mean, that's a huge plot of land. I mean, they could do a lot there, Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, interesting stuff, you guys. Interesting topics. Disney. I mean, we're getting quite a bit of news, lately. So hopefully keep going, Disney. Keep giving us that news. Give us some DCA news. I want to know where Pandora's going. So yeah,
I think honestly, July 17th, I would be shocked
if they don't.
Be shocked to high heaven and low hell that if we don't get any kind of information of Pandora and Coco at the end of the Walt animatronic show.
Yeah, that's another biggie.
Okay, well, George, here's the thing, right? Is Destination D is this year, right?
Yeah.
In August, yeah.
Why not just if you're gonna announce it, why not just wait till then?
Well, you could, but the thing is that sorry, George, but there's like significance with the birthday of Disneyland and then looking forward to its future. I think that would be a good opportunity, in my opinion. But go ahead, George, if you have a different point of view.
That was exactly what I was going to say. I think it was like appropriate for Disneyland's birthday, and especially because of Walt's visionary and how he utilized, modern television at the time, to promote and market Disneyland, and then exiting from that show, and you get to see the future of Disneyland forward. So, I mean, that would be a good way to capitalize on those two projects. I think it would be a good startup that even if they do announce more at Destination D, but I think to kind of utilize that moment, then it could get people talking to say, you know what, even if it just gives us a little bit more, then it could say, okay, you know what, we might hear more at Destination D23, or they may elaborate more. Like, we actually may get the location of where like this stuff is going, but it'll be officially announced at Destination D.
Well, that was. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say. Well, that was my question. Though, is that if you want to announce for the 70th thing to kick off, what about Avatar for Pandora would you want announced? Would it be location? Would you be
I would be satisfied just where it's going.
Me too.
Like, that is like bugging the shit out of me. Like,
me too.
Like, on the road, like, we already kind of know we're getting it's going to be the boat ride where it's going to be the same technology as the Pirates ride at Shanghai. That's fine. Like, we can get info of that down the road. We could even get info on that at Destination D. Like, what's the name of the ride? Maybe show us some scenes of like what we expect in the ride. I just want to know where the thing's going.
I want to know where it's going, and we might get that in an interesting way too, because they might announce, like, it might be a dual announcement where it's like, okay, we're announcing the closure and the last operating day of Hollywoodland at DCA will be whatever date. Yeah, I wish it was Pixar Pier. Get rid of that thing. But the last operating day of Hollywoodland will be whatever date, right? But good news is that we're right when that ends. We're gonna start moving some dirt, and that's where our new Pandora adventure will be, or something like to that effect. Give us that idea, give us a model, give us some artwork, something to show us how it's integrated into the park. I still think it's a good possibility, though, that they will rebrand this park into a broader theme, Disney Cinematic Adventure or something along those lines.
That might even be something that we see at the end of the show.
It could be, because I do feel like this Pandora thing is huge, both physically and just for the park in general. It's going to be a huge game changer for DCA. It wouldn't surprise me if they utilize that. It's like the catalyst into a bigger, broader reimagining. It wouldn't shock me. And if they do that, if they do the Disney Cinematic Adventure thing, you can do anything with that park now. You can go into Symbolot with Moana. You can go in there with a Villain's Land if you wanted to. You can go in there with Frozen, any of it. Disney Fantasy Springs. I mean, a lot of people will say, well, put Fantasy Springs in Disneyland, in the Disneyland expansion. I disagree with that. Why would you put a secondary Fantasyland away from Fantasyland in Disneyland? It's a little bit redundant. If you turn DCA into Cinematic Adventure, you can put Fantasy Springs in DCA then, and it makes more sense. DCA doesn't have a Fantasyland. No. But it could with that. So I think it makes much more sense that way. So we'll see. We might see a rebranding.
Or if they were to add a West Coast version of Villain's Land, I mean, to put that in the Symbolot, I mean, that's some huge marketing, even if they were to keep Oogie Boogie Bash over at DCA. That's like another whole extension that you could add on to the...
with Villain's Land? With Villain's Land?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I keep mentioning Villain's Land for DCA. Because Halloween has been such a proven success for that park. You retheme that park to Cinematic Adventure. Now you can have a whole land dedicated to that scary stuff, bro.
So I have a question though, right? So this is going to kind of, would they run into the same problem they do with Star Wars? Now you guys know how I feel about Galaxy's Edge and the Star Wars celebration and Star Wars Science or whatever. Would they have the same type of issue with the Halloween event when they have a Villain's Land dedicated to the dark, the spooky, the villains, as you have Galaxy's Edge when you should have Star Wars stuff, but they have separate days dedicated to Star Wars?
Oh, you mean okay? So I think I know where you're going with this, Ebba. So with Galaxy's Edge, the issue is they're not going to have Ewoks on a regular day because they can upcharge you on Star Wars night to have the Ewoks, right? Gotcha. Yeah. But so with Villain's Land now, are you going to have this problem where it's you're not going to get, this and that. We'll upcharge it for the Halloween. That's a possibility. That definitely seems like a thing that they like to do at Disneyland.
The problem with Star Wars though is they have it on a specific timeline lore where they can utilize that timeline to say, oh, well, we can't break it because it's regular park hours, but we could break it for an upcharge for a specialty party event. I think for villains, it's more. God, I can't believe I'm even saying this as a thing. It's more universal.
There you
go. Where you have the villains around all the time. I think that they may add more during the Halloween season, but I feel like they would still have things year round where they can add more creek trails. They may be even able to move Villains Grove. Obviously, move that out of Grizzly Peak, put that in Villain's Land, and I would take that whole entire Redwood Creek Trail, and I would put Country Bear Jamboree in there.
Boom! From your lips to God's ears. Go ahead, Webba.
Because I'll say. So I get that, right? So the other thing is that, what would you do to make Villain's Land feel different from just a regular Halloween event with the villains? Would the Halloween event just be the silly, happy, spooky stuff, and then have villains be the hardcore, more scary dungeons type of stuff? But
I think with DC, I think here's the benefit though of if you put Villain's Land in DCA, you have permission, so to speak, to get a little edgier. It's not a Magic Kingdom park. It's not a castle park. You could get little edgier. I'm not saying go HHN, right? But you could get a little edgier. You know what I'm saying? But in terms of the event, I mean, it would be, and I think they can do this in Florida too. I would have rare meet and greets. I would love it. And I know they're not going to lean into this character because the movie was one of Disney's biggest flops.
Dude, but that would be so kick-ass.
Dude, the Black Cauldron with the Horn King. If you had a meet and greet with the Horn King, dude, the fans would go freaking nuts. I know a lot of people don't like the movie, but he's a bad villain, dude. He's
They may, because even if you look at Oogie Boogie Bash, there's a lot of villains even right now that you never see on a normal regular day. Madam Mim from Sword in the Stone, she's never out. Sid from Toy Story, they're only out during the Halloween season. Yeah. So, I mean, if you have a whole land dedicated to villains, you could literally go from Horn King to Madame Medusa from the Rescuers. You can go to the one from Rescuers Down Under, the
Poacher.
Yeah, you can go all kinds of crazy.
All
Yeah,
kinds of yeah.
Yeah, I think the hard thing for me is that like that I want to see more of like what Villains Land is going to encompass into the land itself, like what villains are we going to have in there, where the attractions, the food and stuff like that. Because I want to get more of a feel of like what the atmospheric theme of the villains will be in there. Because I still kind of have that worry with the kind of overlapping of Oogie Boogie or Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween fucking party. So I just hope they find a way to showcase that these are two different things, and how do you have the entertainment there enough to entice people to want to experience both things?
Yeah, exactly. I will say this though, with in regards to Star Wars Land in particular, these after hour events have been really hard on Chewie. He's been getting hammered at these events. He's not looking so good. So yeah, it's been rough. But yeah, great conversation, you guys. We actually did a lot of East Coast, but we also did a little bit of West Coast here. That was pretty fun. Really good time. But
I mean, there's no disrespect to the West Coast.
Yeah, we don't disrespect the West Coast here.
Yeah. Oh, so y'all ain't gonna let nobody disrespect the West Coast, huh?
There you go, George. There you go. Absolutely not. We don't do that here. But Slimer, thank you so much for joining us. Always a good time to have you on, brother. Where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Really fun conversation. You guys can find me on X at SlimeSquare84. You guys can find me on YouTube at Orange Grove 55.
Yes. And we definitely do want to do a show about this HHN Unleashed, I think it's called, right?
Horror Unleashed. Yeah, stay tuned for that show because we're going to talk about that. That's a thing. And dates have already been announced. It looks awesome. And it's already selling out. I think the first 2 or 3 weeks are already sold out. And it was just announced yesterday.
Jeez. Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I want to get Theme Park Wizard on that one with us. I think it's gonna be a real fun conversation. Vegas is a great little town. We love Vegas here. So we'll definitely be checking it out for sure. But George, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. And Mr. Webba, Gangsta Webba over here, dude. With the rant. I love the Webba rants. Absolutely love them. There he is. And we all got black shirts on, like a Death Row Records album cover. It's awesome.
Yeah.
There we go. But Webba, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. You can find me on Twitter, Mr. Webba at Webslinger760. You can also find me on Threads and Instagram, Mr. Webba at Cobweb91. You can also find me here on Orange Grove 55.
There he is. Everybody comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we talked about today. Virtual queue going away over there at Walt Disney World. The permits being approved for the expansion. Yes, expansion of Villains Land and Cars Land. Even the stuff we talked about later on in the conversation about, Villains Land and all this Pandora stuff over at DCA. Disneyland 70th. We'd love to hear from you. Anything on your mind, really. Just comment down below. We would love to hear from you. And until the next time, see you later.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.